the rest of your objectives. When we think about text and the way that you can understand text structures and features, I like to think about writing. Because text just means words, writing, pictures, all the visual literacy that we see in print and digital and hard copy. So when we think about our objective, when we think about writing narratives about real or imagined experiences, I see it fitting under the T column because we're thinking about what kind of text, what kind of book will we be writing. So I'm excited to see what you decide upon. Remembering that when you're thinking about your book, and like you did during Read to Self, you're thinking about how do you as the author, how do you help establish the situation, the setting, the place that this story will be happening, so that the reader feels like they're comfortable, they've been there before, whether it's spooky, whether it's calm, whether it's loud, right? How are you going to set the scene for your reader so they really feel like they're there with you in the story like Patricia does? And then how are you going to introduce your characters? You know, you're not kindergarten or first graders anymore. You probably remember when you used to say, I love my mom, I love my dad, right? And you were very simple in your descriptions. Now you're much more advanced writers. And I can't wait to see the kind of introduction that you give us, whether you're kind of playful like Patricia is in her book, or whether you jump right to the hard kind of facts of this is what this person is like, and let's take a journey with them through our story. I want to share something that I brought with you, or with me. This is what I use to document some of the small moments about my son Beckett. Because really, that's what Patricia Polacco is good at. She's really good at documenting those small moments and turning them into great stories. And so this is an example of what I use. I just think about small moments that happen to Beckett, whether he's making something. This is the first book that he made with his grandmother. It was about tomatoes. Or, you know, just silly things that he does. I want him to have a documentation of the small moments that his life has gone through. In case the computers don't work anymore and we don't have Facebook and Instagram and all those things that we have to keep track of our lives. So when you think about writing your book today, I really want to encourage you to think about what are some small moments. There's certainly big ones, trips you might have taken or things you might have done, but the good stories are in the small moments. And so I want to go back to Patricia Polacco and help us document on our anchor chart what are some things that she does. Because she is both the author. Here you see her in her studio, working in her studio, her comfy spot, just like you have comfy spots in your classroom. And here she is working as an illustrator, working on the first sketch of one of her illustrations. And it's interesting, I wouldn't think of her as using like highlighters and Sharpie markers. I would think of something more fancy and advanced, but she's using the things that we use, markers, colored pencils, Sharpies. And so it really helps me to say, we really can be real authors and real illustrators. I want you to think right now, what kind of story do you have in your mind? Turn to your elbow partner right now and talk to them. What's in your mind right now? What kind of story?
My mind is like pizza chips. Like Shark Attack. Shark Attack. What did you mean? Tyler, you're disgusting.
Camera! Tyler said he wants to write about books.
Maybe like about
3. I want to invite you back together. So something I've already posted on our anchor chart to keep track of what are the writing techniques that she's using and then what are the illustrator moves. This comes from the first page that we had looked at, and you can see the line there, remembering that one of her illustrator moves is she really allows her pictures to span across 2 pages. So she really uses a lot of space. She's great at spacing. We also talked about movement, right? We can see on how she's drawn the feet and how she has the arms. You can really see the way that they're swinging, almost like when you're speed walking, right? Can you think about that when you're speed walking, right? How do your arms go? Like the elbows up. And that's what she's done. We can see the elbows up, the feet moving. So she's really great with movement. And so when you're thinking about your illustrations, think about how are you going to use your space? Are you going to span across 2 pages? Or are you going to be more of a small box type illustrator? Or maybe a call out? Or maybe a diagram? Or are you going to span across? How will you show movement? Because I'm guessing a lot of you are thinking about action sequences, right? Something that's going to happen that's going to be scary or exciting or shocking. How are you going to use the space and the movement to show us that? One of her writing techniques, we were thinking about our objective, and we were thinking about, well, how does she introduce the characters? How does she help us become comfortable with the situations going on, or the characters that are happening? And something that she did on the very first page, she told us that her parents were divorced. Right? She called out the situation right away. But instead of maybe, I thought it was going to go maybe something more sad or upsetting, she didn't really let that hamper her in her story. She was just setting the stage. She really did a great job of introducing us to the characters, right? And she introduced those characters by telling them what the daily habits were. Intro characters through description of daily life. Because we know what they do for breakfast, they know how they get ready in the morning, now we feel like we know them. Let's just read a few more pages and see what are other illustrator moves that she uses and what are some other writing techniques. So please use your personal documentation device, your switchboard or your whiteboard. Let's see, what else does she do? Would you divide your switchboard in half or your whiteboard in half, and I'll do it too. And so on one side, I'm just going to put a W for her writing techniques. What does she do as a writer to help me understand the story? And then I'm going to, on the other side, put an I for illustrator. What does she do as the illustrator? Because that's what you'll be. You'll be both the writer, the author, and the illustrator. Yeah. So let's see what we can document. What are some of her moves that she makes to help us think about that event or situation? So as I'm reading, you can be writing and even hold it up if you want to share that idea. That's what's so nice about these boards, is that I can see what you're thinking without having to hear it out loud. All right, so if you remember, she thinks her family has forgotten her birthday. And here we come, Father's home. That night when Dad came home, I looked for a birthday present. That's what I would do, wouldn't you? You're thinking, oh, he's just kidding. I'm sure he's going to,
looking for the cake.
The cake. So you're thinking cake's going to come up to the front door. I looked for a birthday present. Well, he read the paper like he always did. Then he started watching TV like he always did. So again, you're seeing her illustrator move. She does use the spacing of the whole page, but look at her attention to detail. Right? She's often won't include a background color so that her details pop out. I mean, we see things like the newspaper. I even see the plug. She's drawn the plug and the light is plugged in. She has the lamp probably hanging crooked like it might if all these children lived in the house. I wouldn't expect to see a tidy house. People are always moving. She has something curious in the background that I'm wondering about, and even the books. She's really given us some detail. And also she gives us a detail about the time of the story. This TV doesn't look like necessarily a TV that we would see now. So that helps me think about time. I'm starting to think that this is most likely not a story that's written current. And I love this. Patricia does this quite a bit. She puts in real photographs. So she illustrates, she uses color and markers and things, but she also will take real photographs of either people from her family or someone connected to the story and insert it. And you probably know that because I've heard you've been reading some of her books too. So real quick, document. What did you notice about her illustrator moves? And did you notice anything about her writing technique? I think I definitely want to write down, I have the picture somewhere over here. I like that detail that she uses. She really is big on detail. And I'm also going to put that she uses different media. Different media would be the photographs. She doesn't just stick to one type of illustrating. She uses photographs as well, and I decided to document that as different media. You could even have drawn some of the things that you saw. So there's our example.
You have every page?
Just a few. Let's just read a few more pages. Suddenly, my dad sat up in his easy chair and got that look in his eye that usually meant he was up to something. Ooh, don't you like those words? The word choice is strong. He got that look in his eye that usually meant he was up to something. I think that I must document on that writing techniques because I love her word choice. It's really personal voice, isn't it? You really hear her voice coming through this. And she has really a great way, I think, of inserting clauses and different kinds of phrases that stick with you. So she says, got that look. Don't you like that? I might lift that line and put that in my own writing. Got that look in his eye. I give her credit, Patricia Polacco. I think tonight might be the perfect night to do it, he said. Do what? My brother and cousin Billy asked. I think tonight we should head down to the clay pit. Now think about her objective. She's thinking about how do I orient the reader to a situation. By calling it the clay pit, I'm already thinking, is this scary? Is this dangerous? What is this place?
Dangerous.
And you might have a place like that in your neighborhood. A place that's, it's too dirty, it's too messy, it's too scary. But
that's the house next door. It's fine.
But Dad, I said, everybody knows the clay pit is haunted. I'm with you, Dad, my brother said. Me too, added Billy. Not only had my birthday been completely forgotten, but now we had to go to one of the scariest places on earth at night. Tonight, we're going to get the very first photograph ever taken of the monster at Clay Pit Bottoms. Even though I was scared, I began to feel a little excited. So far I hadn't shown you the picture, but her words, right? Her words have a great way of drawing us in. We almost feel like we're there.
Her words describe her pictures.
Absolutely they do. That's a good point. Your classmate said her words describe her pictures. And again, notice her background. Her background doesn't have a lot of color because the focus isn't where they're at. It's more about what they're saying. And notice that she has a wonderful way of showing us the character reactions in her pictures. She always will do her best to make sure that we know how the characters are feeling in the words, but also in the pictures. And I think that's a really smart move on her part because we know there are 3 ways to read a book: the words, the pictures, and to retell a familiar story. And I just get so engaged in her pictures.
She's like, and her brother and her cousin are like, hee hee hee.
Yes, it's almost like you can see into the mind of each of the characters and what they're feeling or thinking. Would you please turn to your elbow partner and tell them something you noticed more about her as a writer?
I noticed that her dad, so you can tell by the picture. What do you have to do there?
I like how they're going to a scary place.
I didn't feel anything. His father, he's like, we're going. Or he's like, so like, I think she meant like extreme. I think she meant like details. Like, he was going in there.
Well, I'm going to put definition.
Yeah, mysterious.
I noticed that.
I'll invite you back. So, as you're thinking about what kind of book you're going to write, whether it's going to be real or imagined, really be thinking about how can those first few pages really help to orient the reader with your situation, what's going to be going on in the plot, as well as the characters. Because we've only read maybe 3 or 4 pages of Patricia Polacco's book so far, but think about all that we know about the characters. We feel like we're standing in that room with them thinking, oh gosh, am I going to the clay pit or not? Oh gosh. Right?
No, I would.
Because she's really drawn us in. So as you work on your books today, think about some of the writing techniques that she uses. She sets the stage right away for what's going on, but she doesn't let that be the focus. She introduces the characters by describing their daily life, and then she uses some great personal voice. Things like, you got that look in his eye. As an illustrator, she doesn't rush through the illustrations. If you're not someone who yet is the kind of artist that you want to be, focus on some small details. Maybe you're not going to show the whole scene. Maybe you're going to zoom into a small piece of it. Maybe you're going to go through the recycling bin